The rain fell in soft, rhythmic patterns against the window pane, the sky dark and heavy with a storm yet to break. Nathan Cole sat in his small, cluttered apartment, staring down at the plain yellow pencil in his hand. He remembered the day it all began, though the memory seemed distant now, like a faint echo in the corridors of his mind. It had been an ordinary day, like any other. Nathan, a quiet and introspective young man, had always been a lover of words, of books, and the small creative worlds he could escape into. He worked as a copy editor, spending hours rewriting the words of others, erasing their mistakes with the flick of a pencil. He was, by all accounts, unremarkable. But that changed one fateful afternoon when Nathan had been visiting his favorite secondhand bookstore. Hidden away in the corner, behind dusty shelves of forgotten novels, he found it. A peculiar old pencil with an oddly smooth eraser. It had no brand, no markings, just a simple tool that seemed ordinary until he touched it. That night as he lay in bed, restless thoughts swirling in his mind, he remembered a small but frustrating error he had made earlier that day at work. He imagined how easy it would be to erase the mistake, to remove it completely from his life. And then, with the pencil resting on his bedside table, the memory of the mistake vanished. No correction at work the next day. No apology letter. No uneasy feeling that he had messed up. Nathan knew immediately that something was wrong. Or rather, something was very, very right. His mistake was simply gone, as if it had never been made. He tried again, erasing small thoughts, a memory of an embarrassing conversation, the taste of a meal he disliked, and even the small scar on his knee from childhood. All gone. It was exhilarating. It was terrifying. As the weeks went by, Nathan discovered the full extent of the pencil's power. Anything he thought of, objects, memories, even living things, could be erased from existence. The world would reshape itself around the absence as if whatever he erased had never existed in the first place. But the cost of using the ability revealed itself soon enough. With each use, the pencil's eraser became smaller. Each erasure shaved off a fraction of the pink nub at the end of the pencil, until he could feel the curse settling in, the weight of immortality. As long as the eraser existed, so would he, bound to this life for eternity. Nathan's journey into his new reality began shortly after the full extent of his power was revealed. He wandered the city, confused and alone, seeking guidance. That's when he met Mirabelle, a mysterious old woman who sat on the steps of an ancient temple-like building he had never noticed before. Mirabelle had eyes that seemed to look beyond the physical world, and a voice that carried the weight of centuries. "You've found it, haven't you?" she said as he approached, her voice soft and knowing. Nathan was taken aback. "Found what?" "The pencil of the forgotten," she replied. "You're its keeper now." Mirabelle explained that the pencil was no mere tool, it was an ancient artifact, cursed and imbued with the power to erase existence itself. She was the last living person who knew of its origins, and her role was to watch over the pencil's keepers, guiding them. If only for a time. "You are not the first," Mirabelle said gravely. "Many have held that pencil before you, and many have erased themselves from history by abusing its power. You must tread carefully, or you will find yourself lost, not just from this world, but from all existence." Mirabelle became Nathan's first mentor, teaching him the balance between creation and destruction. Through her, Nathan learned that the pencil was not just a tool of erasure but a tool of judgment. With it, he could change the world, but every action would have a consequence. Months later, Nathan found himself far from the quiet life he had once known. He had begun to walk the path of a hero, erasing the nightmares of those who suffered, removing dark forces that plagued the innocent. This was how he met Ezekiel, a former soldier turned vigilante, who was haunted by his past. Ezekiel had once been a decorated officer, a man of principle who fought to protect the weak. But one mistake, a single moment of hesitation, had led to the deaths of his comrades. That failure haunted him every day and every night, filling his mind with guilt and torment. When Nathan found him, Ezekiel was on the brink of madness, driven by memories he could not escape. "Erase it," Ezekiel begged, his voice raw. "Erase the memory of what I've done." But Nathan hesitated. Erasing a memory was a dangerous thing. It wasn't just about removing a single thought. It meant altering who someone was, changing the course of their life. "I could," Nathan replied softly, "but what would you become without that memory? Would you still be you?" Ezekiel's journey with Nathan became one of redemption, rather than erasure. Together, they fought side by side, with Ezekiel offering his combat prowess and Nathan using his gift sparingly, only when there was no other way. Not all those Nathan encountered sought erasure for pain or guilt. Some, like Lila, a dreamer and artist, simply sought to forget the heavy burden of a world that refused to understand her vision. Lila was a woman who painted with colors Nathan had never seen, creating worlds with her brush that felt more real than reality itself. But with her gift came loneliness. Lila's art was too far beyond the understanding of those around her, and she had become isolated, her brilliance unappreciated. Erase the pain of solitude, Lila whispered to Nathan one night as they watched the stars. I don't want to feel this anymore. Nathan had grown cautious by then, and rather than erase, he offered something else, hope. He introduced her to others who would see her art for what it was. He connected her with those who had also felt the sting of isolation. He knew he couldn't always erase pain, sometimes people just needed to be reminded that they weren't alone. Lila stayed with Nathan for a time, showing him that not everything needed to be erased to heal. Some things simply needed time, patience, and understanding. As Nathan continued his journey, he found himself balancing the weight of his power and the responsibility that came with it. He encountered people from all walks of life, some broken, some lost, some simply looking for a way to escape. And while his eraser could remove their pain, their nightmares, their mistakes, he learned that sometimes the greatest healing came not from erasing, but from facing the truth. Each use of the pencil left the eraser a little smaller, but Nathan had become more discerning. He was no longer the same man who had stumbled upon a cursed artifact in a second-hand bookstore. Now, he was a hero, one who could erase, but also one who could choose not to. And with every step he took, the weight of his immortality grew heavier. Nathan knew, deep down, that the eraser would not last forever. One day, it would shrink to nothing. And he would have to make the final choice. What would be his last erasure? What would he erase when there was nothing left? For now, though, he journeyed on, meeting allies, enemies, and those in need. The path before him was long, and the future uncertain, but Nathan had learned one thing from Mirabelle, Ezekiel, and Lila. Power was not in what he could erase. Power was in knowing when not to.